Hi, YouTube. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It is the 3rd of July. Hope everybody's doing well. I have to step away from the plate here just for a second. My lovely wife Natasha's downstairs. It's going to take just about 2-3 minutes for me to go down there and pick her up. And I thought, you know what, since I've got to be off camera for 4 or 5 minutes at the most, I would say, I might as well just run the same thing I showed you last time. Nothing new to it. If you missed it last time, it's a promo we did for a quick think tank, and it's the only thing I've got loaded. So I just have to go let her in. Just quick trip down the elevator and then to the garage. Then I'll be right back. So if you haven't seen it, here it is again, and I will be back in just a moment. Find that. There it is. Okay, ready? Here we go.
There's a mystery at the heart of Western civilization. A riddle, a conundrum, a secret in a little wooden box. It's responsible for all of the West's wealth creation, all of its medical and technological advancements, all of its cultural dominance, and all of its military power. And that little yet all-powerful secret goes all the way back to the very beginning of Western civilization. It all goes back to the ancient Greeks. How, do you suppose, is it possible that simple hoplites, that is, free men, citizen farmers, who might not ever be called to battle in their entire lives, would, time and time again, go forth into battle and win against overwhelming numbers of professional warriors and their endless hosts of enslaved infantry? Free men, with little or no military training, would get the call to arms, return from their fields to their small houses, and take down the panoply of armor that might have last been worn by their grandfathers or great-grandfathers, and then, standing together, shoulder to shoulder, they would form into a phalanx, each man's shield not protecting himself but rather the man on his left, with the shield of the man on his right protecting him. And then they would march against overwhelming odds into a sea of professional warriors from the East who had trained since birth in hand-to-hand combat, and simply mow them down. It doesn't make any sense. But there it is. Marathon, 490 BC. A vastly outnumbered Athenian army of free farmers marched out to confront a massive invasion force under the Persian king Darius I. Vastly outnumbered, the Greeks killed over 6,000 Persians against a loss of 192 men. Thermopylae, 480 BC. 7,000 Greeks, led by King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, held the hot gates against hundreds of thousands of professional warriors under the Persian Emperor Xerxes for 3 full days until falling, due to treason. Plataea, 479 BC. The Greeks put a permanent end to Persian invasions when 40,000 hoplites faced 100,000 Persians under Mardonius. After days of skirmishing, the free men assaulted the Persian lines, killing tens of thousands of them, including Mardonius, for the loss of 1,500 men. So what does all this mean? Well, it clearly means something. Something very deep in Western and especially American culture. After all, our Western civilization's foundational story is that of the Archangel Michael, in golden armor and wielding a flaming sword, casting Satan into the lake of fire. It is the story of the power of the individual, called by God to do battle against the forces of darkness and evil. As a motivator for men under fire, often against impossible odds, it is unequaled in the history of the world. Americans have always understood this and answered that call. There are many schools and academies that have studied these questions, but they end up teaching the when and the how of men in battle. We strive to go deeper than studying the when and the how. Here we are asking not just when and how, but also why. Why is the West so dominant? Why do we fight and win as we do? Why is our history and culture so unique, so exceptional? And why aren't you joining us on this journey?
And we're back. Thanks for watching that. It was good to see it again. You there, honey? No, here she comes. There she has not made an appearance in a little while. Everybody,
Yes.
everybody say hi.
Everybody.
Hi. I made her. She didn't want to come out and embarrass herself in front of everybody, but there she is. Hooray!
Yes, I wanted to say thank you for everybody who joined my channel.
Yes, and we've got some new AI stuff that Natasha's been doing over at her channel. I'll post a link to it right now. Hey, they said the stream looks 1,000% better. I resent that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's see. She's going to go work on some more of her fabulous musicals, animations, and things of that nature. So there you go. Hooray! Let me grab that link because it is really pretty cool, and I'll just post it because Natasha started to play with Midjourney as well for her meditation videos, and the one she's working on now are phenomenal. They're just phenomenal. We did the first. I mean, I just edit them. She puts them together. But we did the first, I don't know, 10 or 15 or 20 of these things using Adobe stock footage. And then once we started getting into the AI thing, it's really fantastic. So give me just 1 second, and I will pop that link up there. And if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. And if you like it, you should subscribe. That would be really appreciated. Hang on 1 second here. I'll find this. She also has a second channel on arts and things, which actually got more. It's got more subscribers than the first one. So she does an awful lot of. Painting and jewelry work and stuff. Yes, The Secret Flower of Life is brand new, and that's stuff that's and Ballroom Fantasy, both of which she generated in Midjourney. So let me grab this. This link, and then we can get on with business. There she is. Here it goes into, put this into YouTube. Boom. It's called, yes, it's on YouTube. I'm going to pin it. If I can remember how to do that on YouTube. Yeah, hang on. Pin message, right. And hang on Twitch. Natasha makes them so fast. Roadrunner wanted to know how long it takes for her to make them. She just has. It's incredible how she could do 20 of them. Did I get that right? Yes, looks like I got it right. How about that? So she's got music for like the next 10 or 15 of them, and she's constantly in there generating still pictures, and it's just a question of being able to find time to. And she's actually doing a lot of the editing now as well, so that's why she's in here. She's just working on the next one, which is going to be called, I think, White Ballroom. Just elegant architectural stuff, and then the hang on, let me get that other link. I'll tell you what, I'll save that for next time. How about if we do that? So I'll set that there, and I can set this. And like I said, if you like them, go ahead and subscribe. What are we? 4,150 subscribers now. It's great. 57 videos. That's a hard-working girl. But once Midjourney got in her hands, boy, I'll tell you what, it's genuinely amazing what she does. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. It's very different than my stuff. All of her stuff is beautiful and delicate about creation and beauty, and all of my stuff is about violence and gore and smashing things and blowing things up. The way it should be. So there's that. Let's see here. There's a lot on that channel that are really, really good. At the Stargate is very good. It's got 18,000 views. It's a really decent number. I think my personal favorite, if you scroll down, this is my personal favorite, music-wise, is probably The Mystery of Atlantis. It's a couple down there. But in any event, the AI revolution is just amazing. So I want to talk about that a little bit. This is our Thursday night show, so it's politics, and I'm going to talk about it as politics. But let me just get my YouTube comments out in one piece, and we're good to go here, I think. Thank you, Odin. Come on. There we go. Okay, so you go there, and you come over here, and we actually looks like we might have something going here. Good. Okay. All right, so down to business. Mike Madsen has died about an hour ago. I found out about it in the comment section, as I so often do. I get my news from the comment section here. He was a regular with Quentin Tarantino, and just played an incredible villain. I don't know what he was like in real life. He actually seems like a relatively gentle guy, although I would not want to be stuck with him in a warehouse, especially if Stuck in the Middle of You was playing. So sorry to see him go. And he's 67, just a year older than me, and that was tough. But you made a mark, man. That's really, I think, all you can do in life is say that you made a mark. It doesn't have to be a public mark. I mean, most people seem to find, by far, the most satisfaction in life, is their families and stuff. So, I just thought he was just a really, really good actor. It's hard to be. You see guys like Mike Madsen, and you think that's what that's what you think they're like. You think the guy's got to be like that, like real taciturn and and real nasty. He's so good at it. But I'm sure he was just a prancing theater fairy, just like the rest of us. He looks like. Castellan mentions that he got him confused with Tom Sizemore, who died several years ago. Both of those guys were terrific character actors, and they were both. I can't speak for either one of them, but I know that Sizemore had a lot of personal problems, of drinking problems and stuff, and Manson didn't look that good, and it was 67 of natural causes, so I suspect he's probably had a bit of done a bit of drinking and partying in his day, which you end up paying for apparently. Yeah, who's his sister? I've forgotten her name. Just waiting for somebody to ring that bell. Any colonies renders? Virginia Madsen. Yes, I remember. No, we're going to save the colony renders for. You know what? I have one. I was going to put them together, but I've got one that I did. I was just kind of. Hang on a sec. Since you mentioned it, I'll just grab one of these guys here. Hang on. Because, yeah. Maybe I'll grab two here. Just checking, testing, things out here. So hang on a second. I'll just drop a couple into. Oh, come on. Drop a couple in here and just. What's the matter with you? There we go. Let's see what I want to use. Yeah, this is good. Here you go. Try this on for size. It's only 5 seconds. Hang on, YouTube. I'll have to play that again. Hang on. That just looks so bloody good, man. I can't get over it. I was looking at, I think there's a new trailer for Warhammer 40K, and it was done, with metahumans and things like that, and big money spent on it, and I was so hyped on metahumans when they came out, and I thought, these things look absolutely so photorealistic. I can't tell the difference. I really mean it. Like I said, I was just so deep into the CG rendering that I really thought this looks like photoreal. And then along comes this AI stuff, and it's like, it's like a chalk drawing, and all it's so. And this is, and sometimes I get myself worked up about this because it's so frustrating on some level. But I understand that things are moving so quickly. I've been working with this now for a little over a month, and I've already seen 3 or 4 major major improvements on these things. But so CGI is the traditional CGI. I've been working on that since 1992 with that, waiting for this to get real. And then I just look at what I did with the thing you saw just a few minutes ago with the Greeks and all of the stuff that's the depth of field and the focus pulls. It does all that automatically. It does the expressions automatically. If I were to have ranks of guys in CGI, just one shot, it's like a 3-second shot, just ranks of like 7 or 8 hoplites, in armor. I would have had to do 6 motion capture sessions for the body. Facial motion capture sessions would have all had to be mapped onto this thing, have to be rendered. All the lighting would have to be fixed. I'd have to find a background. I'd have to light that up. I'd have to get the costumes every time they move. All the motion of the cloth, it's all done automatically on AI, and the problem is, it's not quite. They have to get the AI. The AI that generates the image has got to get much more. And I understand it's hard because the AI doesn't live in this world. It doesn't know. CGI doesn't pretend to live in this world, but AI just has references and so on, and and it's very, very difficult to get precise controls in AI. And unfortunately, and I guess this is this is what we're working on. The the helmets are never the same twice. The uniforms are never the same twice. I'll have it by next Monday, I think. I'll have some more high resolution renders for the colonies, and you'll see Jake walking along, and he's never wearing the same suit twice, and that's gotta be fixed. So I was just going to mention this because I've been talking with the developers. We appear to be about 3 days away, hopefully, from having our plugin to get our website working, so we can not only get new members but hang on to the ones we've got. So that's when I'm going to open. I'm going to let loose the dogs of war, cry havoc, and let loose the dogs of war. Let slip the dogs of war. And then I'm gonna start pushing this real hard. I just lost my train of thought here. Anyway, it's going to it's already changing the world, and I think for the Build.com membership, the entire pitch is going to be what with the AI video and story mechanics and stuff. We are going into we're going out to strange new worlds, and we're going to get people who aren't already on the team. That's basically what I'm going to be doing. There's a lot of conservatives out there, and a lot of great people, and Charlie Kirk and the Daily Wire crew, and the Blaze and all those guys. But nobody's in this space. Nobody, and just in the space of 5 days, I did the total of 5 days work. I did the LA dying thing, and I did the thing you just saw. It's really amazing, and I've got a chance to put a real sizzle trailer together for that. It's the classic tortoise and the hare story, except the parable of the tortoise and the hare is that slow and steady wins the race. But in this particular case, it's like the tortoise has been creeping towards this photoreal finish line. When I say photo, they've been calling CGI photorealistic since forever. And I've seen lots and lots of stuff in Unreal 5 that I thought was photorealistic, and then I saw AI video and I said, no, it's just not. It's not the same. So anyway, in this particular tortoise and the hare race, it's like the tortoise has been just inching forward for 40 years now. Just 40 years, getting closer and closer, and then 2 years ago, out comes this thing that's just this freaky, weird, hallucinogenic, satanic-looking kind of things with all these things morphing out of it, and then pow! It just like shooting a bullet, and it's crossing the line. So they already came out with software that did something very important, although you're limited to 5 seconds. But it's brand new C-Dance renderer, and what it allows you to do is do cuts within the shot. So if I had a guy, I type in a prompt that's like a guy playing a piano, and you'd shoot that as a wide shot, and then you do a close-up of the hands as a separate shot, and then you do close-up of the face. So you'd have 3 shots. You'd cut those 3 things together, and every time that you hit the button to generate it, it would generate something that was slightly different. But now you can generate this one prompt, and in the middle of the prompt you can say cut to close-up, cut to hands, and all the lighting matches and all the movements match. That's a big deal. Not a lot of cutting you can do within 5 total seconds of runtime, but that 5 second runtime thing is an artificial imposition, and so we don't know when they're going to loose that, let that open some more, but it's going to happen soon. So anyway, I'm just really excited, and actually got some rest. The last 2 I don't know if anybody caught it on the last, for those of our members, the last backstage show we did. I was like nodding off, you know, I was just like just so tired. And you know, I'm just getting just really energized. So we should have our hopefully, you know, it's like fusion is, who said that? Somebody in the YouTube section. Fusion power is just 10 years away, and it's been 10 years away for 60 years. And so is the working website. We did get the speed up, but we are, you know, we got to be able to get some new members in here, and I'm going to go charging hard on this. And this time I really think I got something, you know, with some real sizzle to sell. So I was looking at some of these, you know, reaction videos to protesters and stuff, and I saw something on, it was either X or Facebook, and it was a picture of Trump and DeSantis, and might have been Melania as well, and they're at Alligator Alcatraz, and the guy who did the post said, they're laughing, they're smiling as we put humans in cages. You know, what has this world come to? And this whole kind of virtue signaling, weeping, you know, bleeding heart kind of stuff. And I just am so over this. I'm so over this fetishization of the criminals and the so-called oppressed, you know. I'm just so over it. It's just plain. I've come to realize how evil that appeal is. These people think that they're morally superior because they say, I'm on the side of the immigrant who just came here looking for a better life, and we're putting people in cages with chain link fences, and I've been hearing this message for 50 years now. And after you hear something for 50 years, you start to, if not believe it, it starts to sink in. And I'm just waking up to how evil that message is. Did I get the exact quote? Adam Smith said, "Mercy for the guilty is cruelty to the innocent." And I think that's a really, really great take on things. I've seen footage out of Paris lately, and London and Brussels, and I saw a liberal woman in her Paris apartment crying because she can't go outside without being assaulted, not just harassed now, assaulted. And oh, won't somebody bring Paris back? I just want to go back to America. And oh, this is so sad. It's just terrible. What happened to the Paris I love? Well, you voted away the Paris that you love. You voted it away. You know, young, white, liberal women voted this stuff away, and now they can't go outside. And it's the same in America's inner cities. And finally, somebody's finally taken the side of the victims and going after the criminals, and they're having the vapors over it. They're having fainting fits. And I have to tell you, man, I've said this many times on the show before. I never thought, even in the first days or weeks after Trump was inaugurated the second time, I never ever imagined, because I was thinking about this when I was going to be doing the Things to Come series. I said, my God, in order to clean this mess up, you'd actually have to go into the cities and arrest gang members and illegal aliens. It just won't happen. It's not possible. It's just inconceivable. And so I see people doing it, and see it actually happening, and it's like, my God, you know. Oh, and another thing that I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would see. The University of Pennsylvania has stripped Leah Thomas of all of his titles, awarded all of the second place winners become first place winners, and has issued an apology to the to the uh, um, to the women who he competed against. If you had asked me that even 2 years ago, a year ago, I just would have said it's inconceivable. But it's actually happening. Of all the people in Trump's administration, including Trump himself, the one person who actually takes my breath away. If I could remember his name now. I had a face right in front of me. Hang on a second. Oh, come on. This is so embarrassing. Homan. He is, yes, he is so astonishing that I just don't know what to say. He simply doesn't. No, Thomas. Thomas didn't apologize. The University of Pennsylvania apologized to the women. Tom Homan just doesn't have any F's to give, and I just think this is why I think I've been so kind of drawn to this Archangel Michael thing, because we're supposed to feel bad for Satan, You're supposed to. We've been conditioned to feel bad for him. We talked about this on Monday night. No, that's what the flaming sword is for. It's like this is what keeps civilization intact. And apparently Riley Gaines will get her rightful medal back from Thomas. And it's like watching things heal. And I just didn't think I'd live to see it. So it's really, I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. I'm seeing it everywhere. The normies, the law-abiding regular citizens who have been guilt-tripped into almost losing the country, and it just all across the board, people have had enough of this insanity, had enough of it, and I'm seeing it with the backlash against the whole trans insanity and against the whole, these are just the family man who's here to earn enough money to buy bread for his family, and you look at the people that are crossing the border, these military-aged young men by themselves with no families, no children. They're rounding up these Iranian agents, and it's like a dream. It's a dream, and the left is just hyperventilating over this because they're on the side of Satan. They can't bear to see. I guess what I'm trying to get, I've been dancing around this, but basically, we have been the product of a half century of psychological warfare to make us feel guilty about our success, to make us feel guilty about being strong, make us feel guilty about being rich, make us feel guilty about being any of these things, and it's like I don't have to explain to you. You know what I want to happen for the Queers for Palestine? I want them to go to Palestine. I don't even want them to get hurt in Palestine. I just want them to go to Palestine enough to get scared. I really would like them to go enough to get scared, because so many of them are just delusional, and some of these, you see these interviews with these 20-year-old chicks on the beach, and they're just lying there getting some sun, and it's like, you ask them what's the significance of the 4th of July, and they're like, isn't that wasn't that when Lincoln freed the slaves, or wasn't that the Civil War? And it's like, honestly, what's the significance of the year 1776? Was that when World War II was? I mean, how bloody stupid do you have to be? And I don't know, man. I'm just going right at that demographic. I'm going right at it, and the more resources we can gather, the more we can do. The nice thing about there's a place, still a big place for CGI. For example, if I were to do an astronomy series, let's say, I'm really thinking about doing an astronomy. Yeah, Roadrunner says they're not stupid, Bill. They're uneducated. It's not their fault. And you're absolutely right, and I need to keep that in mind. But I mean, I think I could do 20 minutes. I've not heard Bill for a while. Is he really speechless, or is he in need of some pill? Well, I wouldn't say I'm speechless, but what have you got? I could just do a 20-minute video. One, and you would have the basic understanding of your place in the universe. You'd have a fundamental basic understanding. You'd know what a solar system is. You'd know what a planet is. You'd know what a galaxy is, and so on. Neil deGrasse Tyson, this is a favorite rant of ours on this show, is not only the most pompous, condescending D-bag in the pop culture, he's also the dumbest person I have ever met, or at least ever encountered in my travels. He is astonishingly dim bulb. He was on, I saw a clip from him on Rogan. And Rogan pointed out, and Rogan's right. Yeah, Marsha points out there's an AI video about him. He is the most condescending man in the world. But here's what I saw. Rogan, Jamie, bring that up. Put that up for me. Rogan showed a picture of the big picture of the universe. Widest possible picture. And Rogan pointed out he had next to it like some kind of a representation of neurons in the human brain. And when you look at the large structure of the universe, it looks very much like neurons. There's tendrils and there's connections and clumps and covers all this distance and all these things. Hey, no problem there, bro. Anyway, Rogan says, and Dave Big Booty says fractals. Fractals, man, I'm all over the place, but I don't care. That's what the show is. When fractals started coming out, when fractal graphics came out, that was the first time they were able to do a landscape generator. There was something that generated a Mars landscape. It took forever. It took 20 minutes to just scan this thing. But it looked a lot like landscape because fractals make terrain is made out of fractals. Clouds are made out of fractals. It's all fractals, right? So anyway, Rogan said, look at this. It's kind of remarkable, don't you think? These two things look alike. And Tyson, going into Carl Sagan mode, says, well, you have to understand that the scale is really different. No kidding. And here's what he said. This is almost verbatim. He said, yes, this is a picture of the large structure of the universe, but when you get down to the other side, to the neurons, you're working on the quantum level. He says, on the quantum level, on the very, very small level, things don't get to orbit around the nucleus or the electron. They have to go into specific places. And he gives this whole lecture about quantum mechanics, very superficial level explanation about quantum mechanics. And then he concludes by saying, so once you understand how science works, you no longer get to foster these romantic illusions. In other words, what he's saying is, it's a coincidence that the large structure of the universe looks an awful lot like brain neurons. And the reason it's a coincidence is because quantum mechanics operates on an entirely different scale. And I said, true as far as it goes, you ignorant jackass, but neurons don't function at the quantum level. There's probably about as much difference between a neuron and the size of a subatomic particle as there is between a neuron and a galaxy. It's probably about in the middle. There's nothing, the neurons and the structure of the brain are so much larger than the quantum level effects that it's just laughable. And if I'd been on that show, I said, what is the matter with you? What is the matter with you? Neurons are visible under a microscope. They're orders and orders and orders of magnitude larger than the quantum states. And your entire argument is nuts. And you're trying to sound so learned and so, you're going to cure us of these romantic fantasies, but you don't have the faintest idea about what you're talking about. And furthermore, what you're trying to prove is that this remarkable symmetry is meaningless. You're determined to prove it's meaningless. Now, I can't prove to you that there is a connection between these two things, but what I can do is I can say it is a remarkable coincidence in the best possible case that the largest scale structure of the universe bears a striking resemblance to the mechanism that is responsible for consciousness, and nobody knows what consciousness is. But this guy is talking about, well, on the small scale, it doesn't work because of quantum mechanics. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. An idiot. He's just absolutely dumb. And Rogan goes, well, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. It was probably just a coincidence. What if it's not? I don't know, man. With these people, I saw this guy. And I used to be one of these people. I don't know if I was ever this morally deranged, but I was into this, this whole scientific materialism thing, and I saw this guy was talking about abortion, and he was saying, at 3 days, a human, it's not even an embryo, it was a zygote or whatever it is. He said after 3 days, a human zygote has about 150 cells in it. He said the brain of a fly has 100,000 cells in it. So we should be much more concerned about swatting a fly morally than we should be about terminating this 3-day-old zygote. And then he went on to say, when you scratch your nose, as I'm doing now, you're peeling away several tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of cells. That's a holocaust, he said. So science is here to protect us from these religious blinders. And I'm thinking, yeah, but those cells on your nose are not capable of turning into a little girl or a little boy, are they? Are they? Because he was saying, well, technically you could reproduce the entire genome from the... Stop with this. Okay, stop with this. This is not science, and this is not... This is Moloch speaking. This is Moloch. To say that these things are equivalent, and that we should be much more concerned about swatting a fly. He'll say, well, you could say that the potential for a human being is there, but that potential is often not realized. Well, more often than not, it is. He says, and then there's the question of souls. Sometimes the zygote will split into two. Does that mean that there's two souls? Does God send an extra soul down? Sometimes they'll fuse together. What does God do with the extra soul? And it's like, all you're doing is making clear how perverted your moral fiber is in order to advance your own valueless, nihilistic, anti-human, atheist dogma. And when you confront people about this, about Hitler and Stalin and Mao all being devout atheists, and their body count together is probably neighborhood 200-300 million people killed, their own people mostly, and they say it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that. Wow. Well, you so much for evidence, right? I mean, if they'd killed all these people in the name of Allah or Jehovah or Christ, you'd be all over it. But no, it's got nothing to do with it. It does have something to do with it, and this is why these people have to be fought, and fought with the flaming sword. You know, the flaming sword to me is not intellectual clarity. It's moral clarity, and that's what these degenerates use. They use the scientific jargon to defend their absolute and total lack of any sense of moral clarity. They're just plain degenerates, you know. And I'm tired of debating them on their level. You know, I want to. I don't know when I first said this, must have been 10, 15 years ago, but you could take any human baby, and that creation is infinitely more precious than an entire dead galaxy. Infinitely more. This is when Tyson really showed how fundamentally stupid he is, and blinded by his own desire to sound like Carl Sagan, who was also blinded in this same way. Tyson said, if aliens were to visit the solar system, they wouldn't even stop at Earth. You know, they'd look at the beautiful rings of Saturn and the incredible clouds of Jupiter. But Earth is just a speck. It's just a small rock. They wouldn't even waste their time visiting. He said this verbatim, pretty much. And I thought, yeah, you know, millions and millions of species, you know, all of this dynamic life, civilization, intelligence, dolphins in the water, you know, apes in the jungle, wolves in the forest. No, they're not interested in any of that. They just want to see rings around a planet, and just the junk headedness of it is just paraphrase Sick Apollonite. He said, no logic, just junk and emotions, and empty-headed justification, and so I just don't know. Well, we finally got the tools to do the tools to get people's attention. That's all this AI is. It's just a tool to get people's attention so you can get into this argument. By the way, haven't talked much about Major Mace Mattingly, but because I haven't done much work on him. But I realized I rendered all the Mattingly characters in spacesuits, and if I render them against a background, then I can put them all in spacesuits. And I've got some renderings of Mercury spacesuits, and so I think I can get them as talking avatars. So there you go. you know, so Quibo says, why is the left calling it alligator Auschwitz? Yeah, because Quibo, to the left, there's no difference between murdering 6 million innocent people, well, 12 million innocent people in gas chambers. There's no difference between that and locking up murderers. They're the exact same thing. See, this is the blindness of these people. That's clever. Eric says, since we called Alcatraz the Rock, do we call alligator Alcatraz the Croc? I did my right angle segment on alligator Alcatraz. Hey there, Swamp. Happy 4th of July to you as well. Anyway, I know I'm just all over the place, but I'm just really I don't know. I'm just really tired of it, and I'm taking more and more of this morally outraged position. Richard Dark says, do you see the conspiracy theories that claim that Trump is dumping illegal aliens out of planes in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? And Roger Ramjet with a quote that I saw not too long ago, which is perfect. It said, to the left, our speech is violence while their violence is speech. It's exactly right. Yeah, so the reason that people can say that Trump is pushing people out of illegal aliens out of planes and into the ocean is because that's within their moral imagination. You see, that's inconceivable to us to come up with an idea like that. But that's within their moral imagination, which means that they're capable of thinking about it. And they're mentally ill. They're just, and this is proven again and again and again. They're just mentally ill. And I'm tired of taking orders from people who are batshit crazy. I'm tired of being beaten down by these people who assume they're just so much better than us when they're just plain nuts. So, anyway, maybe we'll get to the questions, but that's your rant for today. P7 2017 says, someone pointed out that people tend to be quick to accuse someone of that which they have already done. Yeah, Hillary Clinton had all these illegal deals with Russia, and so as soon as she lost the election to Trump, she accuses him of being a Russian agent, and that occupied the entire first term of Trump. So, okay, Sikapalan, good night. Good talking to you. Glad to see you here. Yeah, they're just, you gotta just laugh at them. I really think that's the one thing they can't take, because it's like a flanking maneuver around their argument. Instead of having to argue your way through all of this rhetoric, you just plain skip the rhetoric. They live in a rhetorical universe. Get your bingo cards ready. But this is the thing you see on all these body cam videos. Dave Olson says, can I get an E plebnista? I don't remember the rest of the E plebnista, but I do remember these words must be for everyone or they're for no one. No, it's not archaic. But what happens when you see these mostly leftists, not exclusively leftists? There's some Trump supporting Karens out there too. But what happens is when they get pulled over and they say, "Could you step out of the car?" Then they start arguing, and they keep arguing, and they want to keep arguing, and they say, "Well, I didn't say that. Well, I didn't do that," and so on. It's all about rhetoric. They think that they can wear you down. I really think they think that they can wear the police down to the point where the police say, all right, well, you know what, just don't do it again. They just go away and they think they're just going to leave. But no, they live in a rhetorical world where everything is opinion-based and everything is emotion-based. And so all you have to do is keep complicating things until they become impenetrable. And when they become impenetrable, they will keep using this rhetorical. Claude William is proud of me. Thank you. That show had a big effect on me, actually, that episode. Um, uh, they live in this world where they live in a world where where there are no windows. They live in a box with no windows in it, and they talk to other people as if they also live in a box with no windows in it, where all we do is speculate about things, and your guess about what's going on outside is as good as mine. I've got a theory about what's outside the box. You got a theory about what's outside the box. Let's argue about it and see who can come up with the best argument. But they don't understand that once you open the door and look out the window, all of the arguments just go away. That's what reality is, and they don't play that game. They're not ready to face reality. One of the earliest things I ever said in this line of work was that there's a certain kind of person who could be down in the bilge of a sailing ship, and he's got a chart that he's prepared for the last 10 years, and he's convinced he's got the coastline of the New World mapped out. And so he's plotted the course, and they've measured the speeds and the compass bearings and all the rest of it. And he says, well, at this point we should be approaching a mountain range. And they go outside, go up on deck for the first time ever. They look at their charts, and instead of seeing a mountain range, they see a river delta. And there are people who will look at their map and compare it to the coastline, and they're convinced that the coastline is wrong. And that's what we're dealing with. You know, the coastline is wrong. So anyway, the Spins are a band. Doesn't first time chat? Doesn't a box have no windows by default, or wouldn't be a box? Well, good point. A little redundant there. I remember when I first got to Key Biscayne, Florida, on Rickenbacker Causeway, they caught me with that. It was a part of the causeway that was just, nothing there, and you would see cars pulled over there, and it was people just making out, Although that back in those days, that's all it was, and somebody said to me, they're watching the submarine races. And I thought, that must be the coolest thing, man. When are these submarine races? I want to see that real bad. I'd love to. I love submarines. I think submarines are really cool. I really believed for a couple weeks that they were racing submarines off of Key Biscayne. And then finally I got it, and I thought, you know what? I don't even care if I couldn't see them. If they were still racing submarines out there, I'd still be there for it. Because I have dreams about submarines. I just often have a dream. I'm like walking along a canal, and the submarine goes by underneath, and just, I don't know, I'm just fascinated by them. So there you go. Any submariners out there in the crowd? We get to talk about them sometimes. Yeah, it's the Polaris nuclear sub that I never got. That's probably what it is. It's just childhood trauma, unresolved childhood trauma, no question. See what we got. We got 6 whole questions, Eric says, so I might actually have a chance to get a little rest. Yes, snipe hunts and all the rest of it. And jackalopes. First time I ever came to the West Coast and drove out to, we drove out from Miami. There were 3 of us in a car. We were all, I was 16. Just think about this today, right? I was 16. One of my friends was 17, and I think my other friend was 16. And we were at the Southern Cross Observatory on the roof of the Museum of Science in Miami, and you can't see anything except for the moon and planets, and the sky was just so much light pollution. And and they just opened Kitt Peak Observatory in Arizona. They had this brand new telescope. We thought, it'd be really cool to go see that. And we just said, well, let's just go. So we did. So I cleared my work schedule, and back then minimum wage was $2 an hour. So, it was a couple of gallons of gas an hour. Thank you, John. John Eden parachutes out of the sky with his $99.99 super chat. Again, John, you're a steely-eyed missile man. Thank you very much. It's deeply, deeply appreciated. So we basically, anyway, we just drove out to California, and we just drove nonstop. We, one guy sleeping in the back, two guys talking up front. We just kept on going, and I remember we went to Carlsbad Caverns, and that blew my mind, and that's still one of the most amazing places I've ever been, and when we got out west, I remember it was the first time I'd ever seen, Western terrain and the mesas and all that stuff. And they stopped at this gas station, and they had a jackalope there. And for those of you who are uncultured and uncivilized savages, a jackalope is a rabbit with antelope antlers, and it's a big old joke for people in the Southwest that you would go out. It's like snape hunting. I love jackalopes. I wish I'd seen a real jackalope. Independent TSL questions for 7/3/25, curated by Marusha Dark. Thank you, Marusha. Natasha and I saw the Painted Desert. In fact, we saw the Painted Desert and Barringer Crater in the same day, which was a few hours after the solar eclipse that I missed because I was convinced the weather wasn't going to break, and it was about the most miserable day of my life. I was so desperately unhappy on that, but the Painted Desert is amazing, and Barringer is a big hole in the ground. So anyway, man, I'm still pissed off about that. God, I'm just gonna go home and smash things. So here we go. We got a Marusha Dark, we got a Road Rider, we got a Capital G Geek, we got another Marusha Dark, Eric Blake, and a Mickey McGeeth. All right, so let's see what we got. Okay, so Marusha Dark topic, if you can't keep it. First of all, happy Independence Day to all. Yes, I know it's tomorrow, but we're not meeting tomorrow, so I'm wishing it today. Now on to my question. Ben Franklin, when asked what the founders had made, famously replied, "A republic if you can keep it." Given how many Americans openly support democracy, fascism, socialism, and communism in some form or another, it seems that many are incapable of keeping it and we're often in danger of losing it or at least parts of it. While much blame can be laid at the feet of politicians and failed civics classes, do you think the founders bear any responsibility as well? While they didn't have a crystal ball, is there anything within our founding documents that could have been expressed more clearly to help remedy this? I'll give an example of one I personally maintain. If you remove the militia clause from the Second Amendment such that it simply reads the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, that to me is much clearer. I completely agree. That's about the only thing I can think of in the Constitution that I would change it. That's a great example. That the inclusion of that, the idea that people would use that to take away people's right to defend themselves just never occurred to the founders. Like I said earlier, it was beyond their immoral imagination. But I 100% agree. I think we should. I really wish they had taken out that clause because it's caused a lot of mischief. Just super quick here, a Sneed Chuck in a YouTube super chat. I feel like we're stuck on a ship called Age of Enlightenment. No one wants to leave the ship because the swamp of modernity surrounds us. We need to restore the garden from the swamp. The ship is sinking. Yeah, it's a tough ship too, though. It's been through a lot of storms, and she's going to hold together. First time chat, just real quick I just want to take these from Deporter in Chief. Bill, are you going to be doing a show with the boys regarding the big beautiful bill? I'd be interested in your take on where Republicans negotiated with Republicans to defund Planned Parenthood for 1 year down from 10, and to continue funding gender surgeries when we do not have to worry about Democrats as none of them voted for it. Is this our party now? I'm not a fan of the big beautiful bill. I'm not a fan of the spending in the big beautiful bill. I am on Elon's side emotionally on this. I've heard the argument that we needed it in order to keep the tax cuts, and that's a good reason. But I think on balance, I'm really pretty disappointed with this. In fact, once I heard the term, which is obviously a Trumpism, once I heard the term "big beautiful bill," my instantaneous response to that was, shouldn't it have been the small beautiful bill? Isn't that really what we're talking about? And Elon is, I'm on Elon's side on this. This saved the whole idea of Doge was to go in there and cut deficits to put the country back on a path, on a century-long path to pay down this debt. And you're just adding more to the deficit. It's just like I'm frustrated about it. Nevertheless, with all that said, and I understand one of these questions is about the big beautiful bill, so I'll deal with it. But we really have an opportunity here, and we should be really, really, really going for. We need to be running up the score is what we need to be doing. So anyway, back to Marisha's question. Can you think of anything along those lines that could or should have made more rigorous in hindsight? And somebody pointed out, I didn't catch the name, promote the general welfare. That was clear. It's clear what the founders thought that meant. This is the thing, is that the founders, lived in a time. They lived in the Age of Enlightenment. They never thought that could become obsolete, and so they limited. They did an excellent job of in fact, they did an immaculate job of eliminating censorship and government control and thought control and suppression of rights and speech and so on from the top down. But they had not encountered socialism yet. Karl Marx hadn't been born. All the rest of this 20th century, late 19th century, early 20th century nonsense was beyond their moral horizon. So, as Kafi Shinada points out, that's why they named the American dole system, the wealth redistribution system. They call it welfare because the Constitution says promote the general welfare. It says the general welfare. That means applies to everybody. General welfare means benefits that apply to everybody. If you take money from one person and give money to another person, that doesn't benefit everybody. That benefits one person. And so I don't fault them for not being able to see things that that were, like I said, beyond their moral horizon. And Marusha says we need a constitution that can be understood by an IQ 85 populace. Well, the some of the unsung heroes, one of the unsung heroes of the Constitution was Gouverneur Morris, who was on the Committee of Style, and he was the one that made sure that the Constitution could be understood by any farmer who could read English, and it can be. They didn't fail in this regard. They did not. They're very, very clear. So as far as your question about I look, the problem is not that the Constitution has flaws in it. The problem is that dishonest liars who are masters of rhetoric know how to lie. And the Commerce Clause is a great example. It says Congress shall have the ability to regulate trade among the states, and period. But that's not how it's written. Congress shall have the power to regulate trade among the states, foreign powers, and the Indian tribes. But they leave that out, because once you include that, you realize when they say among the states, they don't mean among the people, because the people are referred to in the Constitution repeatedly. The Constitution refers to the United States, meaning the federal government, the states, meaning the states, and the people, meaning the people. So if they had wanted the Commerce Clause to mean what these liars and rhetorical demons wanted to say, then they would have said Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce among the people. But they didn't say that, because that's far from what they meant. But we allow them to rhetoric their way into all these other things, and that's all it is. The Commerce Clause is a great example. The militia thing is a great example. Welfare is a great example. They it's not a flaw in the government. It's the inability of regular people to police, and not just regular people, the inability of conservative politicians to make a convincing argument. This example, I mentioned this when I was doing the event in Washington 3-4 weeks ago. When Joe Biden got out in front of the Independence Hall with the red banners and the black outlines of the soldiers and talked about how MAGA is a threat to our democracy, he said our democracy 13 times or something like that. And Republicans said, we're not a threat to our democracy, and we started talking about our democracy. The instantaneous response should have been, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. A republic is better, here's why. That's how you win these arguments, but we're incapable of doing it. We not only can't we do it, we can't even see it. It doesn't even cross our minds to see that we're just giving them the advantage. The same thing with choice, right? It's like they're geniuses. They're rhetorical geniuses. The only thing they're good at. We're going to make this about pro-choice. Well, of course I'm pro-choice. Everybody should be pro-choice. That's the whole point of freedom, is you be able to do what you want to, so long as you don't harm anybody else. But they're not putting that second part of the clause in there. They're saying you should be able to do what you want to. So there you go. I don't. I agree with you that that in the modern context there are and really, honestly, it's probably 2 blue pencil marks on the entire document. But there are a couple things that I would have done in retrospect to head off this rhetorical, to make it slightly more airtight against people who intentionally misrepresent things. But look, there's no defense against this. The founders believed that that if politicians were to do this kind of sophistry, then the people, having read the Constitution, would just throw them out of office. So there you go. Stealth Kicks for the first time chat says, you've used the word moral a few times tonight. It all comes down to the moral code or lack thereof. Yes, and this is becoming clearer and clearer to me every day. And furthermore, it's not just more important than politics. It's also where we win, I mean, this scientist arguing that that killing a fly is much worse than terminating a human fetus. That guy should never be in a moral universe. That guy should never ever be able to walk down the street without covering his face in shame, And we used to be like that. Oh, by the way, somebody pointed out that as of July 1st, we are now closer to the year 2050 than we are to the year 2000. And Marisha says natural-born citizen. Yes, natural-born citizen. Barack Obama even if you put it, just assume he was born in Hawaii. He's an American citizen, but he's not a natural-born citizen. There's no question that he's not a natural-born citizen, because the term natural-born citizen, which applies only to the president, was that it was an American citizen who was the descendant of two American citizens. That was the requirement for the president. That's what natural-born citizen meant. And that was conveniently thrown out the window. Barack Obama is not a natural-born citizen. I'm not a natural-born citizen. I'm ineligible for the presidency if natural-born citizen meant what it was supposed to mean. I'd be ineligible because my mother is a British subject. So, that's Dems the brakes, kids. So, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah, and people are talking about birthright citizenship. The idea that you could jet into the country, drive into the country or whatever, have a baby here, and then suddenly get citizenship and then go someplace else is inconceivable. Yes, my dad is a U.S. citizen, and I was born in New York City, so I'm an American citizen, and I'm not a naturalized citizen. My wife is a naturalized citizen. We both have the same rights. She's an American as I am, but natural-born citizen was a stricture that was applied specifically to and only to the office of the president, because they wanted protection against alliance to or sympathy towards foreign powers. So, there you go. Let's move on here. Road Rider. Hi, Bill. Sorry about my question last TSS regarding bean status. Your answer, though, was pure comedy gold, and timing, style, and content well played, even at my expense. I've rewatched it twice, still comedic. Lesson learned, never miss a stratosphere, anything. I'm glad you brought that up, because I felt really bad that just came out of my mouth, because as I said immediately afterwards, so on Monday night we got a question it started off by asking how Bean's doing, and I said, well, he's dead, but it sounded a lot more flipped than I wanted it to, because the fact that you ask about him means that you cared about him, and that you cared about him, cared about me, and it came from a wonderful place, and yeah, so I miss him a lot, and I'm really genuinely glad you did it, because as time goes by, I think about him less. It's just, that's part of healing, and it's part of how we get through life, and when you mentioned him, you brought him back for a little while. So anyway, I sure hope you don't feel like you hurt my feelings. On the contrary, I'm doing okay, thank you, Marcia. I just miss him. He's just such a he was my cat. He was just there all the time. It was good to think about him again. So please don't feel bad about that. I really genuinely deeply appreciate you asking about him, and thanks for bringing him back to life for a few minutes there. Anyway, I'm watching your words come to life in 2025. We are whipping those commies out of their boots. I'm not tired of winning. Me neither. Here's the question: is it a good time to suck it up, do something really decent, humane, and try for a bipartisan solution for U.S. citizen homelessness? It's a threefer. Living in a ravine and pooping nearby is far from comfortable. Yes, and I have not been homeless, but I have been to some of these places, and I'm sorry to hear that, Sarge. What a cool name. You said he recently had to put down his 17-year-old D'Artagnan. Yeah, it's terrible. Natasha helped me enormously with that. In fact, when it came time to actually do that, because he rallied, he really rallied, and we thought, my God, he's a tank. He's going to go on for another couple of years, and then he just really fell apart, and Dave Big Booty, that's actually very funny. And she said, you're a good dad. You're strong. And I thought that helps a lot. It's good to know. It's good to be respected by a person you love, and it's it's what it's what men do. This is your job, guys. It's like, just man up. It's time to do this thing, and it's not fun, and that doesn't mean you get to not do it. So, there you go. Anyway, back to the question here. So living in a ravine and pooping nearby is far from comfortable, and showing leadership on a moonshot scaled problem for folks on hard times or drug crazed or mentally insane Americans shows the true leadership and a maturity rare in DC. And if the progressives don't play ball, they are to blame for not trying to finally reduce the massive amount of American human suffering. The homeless, can't shoot them, can't poison them, can't eliminate them with Chinese fentanyl. But can we corral them into a massive outdoor park-like areas and manage them? Instead of going to the moon again or Mars, I don't think you have to select. I think you can do both. My home today is still about a 30-minute drive from where Agnew State Hospital was. Now I think Tesla annexed that property. Agnew's did some good for the sick and insane, despite what the emerging hippies and do-gooders said. So back in the 80s or so, it was there. As usual, the left loves to argue the exceptions. This is what you have to do when you have an unpopular political opinion or something that doesn't make any sense. You find a number of exceptions. You roll on those. You keep hammering those, and you convince people that the exceptions are in fact the rule. And then people will say, well, this is a terrible, horrible injustice, so on. So basically, starting in the 60s and 70s, they started to produce some books and newspaper articles and so on about abuses inside of mental institutions. A century earlier, Dickens and others were doing the same thing about orphanages. Somebody, it might have been Newt Gingrich, made a case that orphanages are far superior to foster homes or abusive homes, and that orphanages got a really bad name. That orphanages were places where, by and large, people who really genuinely cared about the children gave them education and a warm bed and a place to stay and sense of belonging and love and all this other stuff. I'm not saying you should want to live in an orphanage, but the demonization of orphanages through Dickensian kind of stuff really was a societal harm. But many decades later, they did the same thing with insane asylums, and again, this is the thing that you have to deal with when you're arguing with progressives. Needless to say, there have been some horrific cases of abuse from people who are in insane asylums. There's horrific cases of abuse in private homes. There's cases of abuse everywhere. We do not live in a world where there's a good choice and a bad choice. We live in a world where there's a bad choice and a worse choice. But I am seeing a lot of comments out there, out there where people are talking about make asylums great again. The enormous majority of homeless people, are it's not a question of low-income housing. It's not a question of not enough jobs. Huge majority, although recently in the last 5-10 years, we're seeing more and more homeless people who don't fall into this category. But the large majority of them are not capable of living on their own. They either have serious mental issues and or crippling addiction problems. And somewhere along the line, as Marisha just points out, is it better to be in an asylum, a prison, or on the street? Somewhere along the line, we decided that it was unfair and cruel to put people into mental institutions, when in point of fact, that was the most humane thing to do with them. Eric Blake points out most asylum overseers are not Nurse Ratched. See, there's a great example of what I'm talking about. Dickens did it with orphanages, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest did it for insane asylums. You watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and you say we got to shut these things down, but those things are aberrations. That's not the norm. Most of the time, in insane asylums, people got the best treatment they could possibly get. You know, every human has equal. When they talk about equality for all and that all men are created equal and so on, we're talking about moral equality. Really, we're talking about moral equality before God. We're talking about the idea that you have intrinsic value as a human, and that no one can take that away. That's big enough. I almost said that's all it is, but that's big enough. You are not a better person because you make more money. You're not a better person because you're handsome or beautiful. You're not a better person because you do better things. All humans have intrinsic value, which is why this argument about the fly, having 100,000 cells and the zygote having 150 is simple, plain worshiping of Moloch. But there are people who are broken. Some of them are born broken. Some of them have abused themselves to the point where they're broken, and many of these people are repairable with treatment, or at least repairable to the degree that they become roadworthy. Right? I mean, they're not going to turn into Camaros or Corvettes, but they're roadworthy. But many of them aren't. Many of them just simply the wheels are off, and they cannot be fixed. A lot of people who are homeless because of alcoholism or drug abuse, I think a significant percentage of them, I wouldn't want to guess at the number, but I would say probably, if I had to guess, maybe half of them, with aggressive intervention and things like things like therapy and things like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, can be returned to society and live lives as I did, as a person who started out broken. Just problems, man, and just big problems, and with care and attention and mostly with a desire on the part of the individual to recover, they can. That's Real Lord of Time says therapy is worthless. Well, it may be worthless for you, but that's a generalization that is indefensible. So, if you didn't have a good time with therapy, sorry to hear it, but to say therapy was worthless is just plain wrong. And so you can save a significant number of those people, but for a significant proportion, a majority of them, of current homeless people, they will never be able to function on their own. Never. They're become your own therapist, he says. This is the just say no argument. No, it's not possible. And I've been there. I don't know if you've been there, but if you haven't, then no. The point is that we really need to reinstitute mental institutions, and we need to get them going now, because these people cannot function, and since they cannot function, their choices are, as she points out, prison or the streets or whatever, So it's it's just, you know, it just needs to be done. I agree with you. We should solve this problem. It's a disgrace, and it's not just it's not just an inconvenience for sane people to have to step over all of these needles and filth and all the rest of it. It's just we just have an obligation as a civilization to take care of our citizens who can't take care of themselves. This is what a compassionate civilization does, and we have made it to the point where there are no options for them. People look at homeless people in America and they say, "My God, they've got no place to go." They have plenty of places to go. Most of the time, they don't. They don't. They don't want that. I mean, I don't know. We've ignored these diseased parts of our society for a long, long time, and they've gotten worse and worse and worse. And inner city crime is the same way. It's become so toxic. It's become so infected that it's that I think you just have to face the music, and realize that triage is one of the great examples of facing the real world, looking the real world in the eye, and trying to make the best of a bad situation. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, although I know obviously most of you are, triage is a French word, and I think the French army came up with it. But basically, if you have a big battle, you've got all these wounded coming in, and you've got 10 surgeons, and you've got thousands of wounded. If you take them as they come, you will not be effective. What triage does is very simple. Triage looks at the wounded as they come in one by one, and triage divides them into 3 different camps. That's why it's called triage. Triage will say, this person is wounded, but not badly wounded. He's got some fingers blown off, let's say. That's not fun, and he's hurting, but he's not in any immediate danger of dying from it. So he's lightly wounded. We're going to put him over here. Next guy comes in, he's got his entire guts blown out. He has no chance of surviving. So that guy goes over to a second place, and they give him morphine to make him comfortable, because they could operate on him and spend all those resources on him, and it's not going to make any difference. He's going to die anyway. And then you get people who are badly wounded but have a chance of surviving, and those are the people that need to get into the operating table as quickly as possible. And that is a really effective way of dealing with the unpleasantry of the real world. It would be nice if we had the means to take everybody as they came in, but we don't. We don't have the resources, so you have to make these decisions. So triage is mercy, compassion, and the ability to make a difference in the real world. Save the operating tables for the people that need them now. Some people don't need them right away, and some people will never be helped by them. And I think you have to apply triage to this homeless problem. You basically have to say, there are there are people who will never recover. They're psychotic. They are dysfunctionally addicted. They're not capable of recovering. Those people need to go to asylums and be cared for and treated, and make their lives as comfortable as possible so that they stay clean, and they get food, and they get to sleep in a bed and have security, not have to worry about being murdered or raped or whatever in the course of the night and so on. Those people are the morphine cases. There are other people out there who are homeless, who are just fallen on hard times. These are people who can be helped with low-income housing, or they can be helped with temporary programs to get people on their feet. I don't have any problem whatsoever with the safety net. It's the safety hammock I have a problem with, and so they can go into that lightly wounded category, and then there are people that fall into the category where aggressive medical and mental help can return them to society, where they function certainly on a suboptimal level, but they're getting the best they can get out of the deal. But some of these people, and probably I would say at least half or maybe more, need to be locked up, not just for our good, and that counts. Innocence for the mercy for the criminal is cruelty for the innocent. But not only for our own safety, but for their own safety. Not only for our safety, rather, but for their own safety. Mike Churchill says it's crazy how California spent tens of $billions on this program. Los Angeles spends $300 million a year or something on low-cost housing for the homeless, and so far, after 10 years, they've not built a single housing unit, not a single apartment, not one. And it's so there's, like everything else, it's like USAID and all the rest of the things. These are all liberals, all progressives that are doing this. USAID was just basically taking taxpayer money to advance their political agenda, and hundreds of millions, well, billions of dollars are paid for by taxpayers like me, who are paying for the care of homeless people, and it doesn't go to homeless people. It goes into the pockets of corrupt politicians. And I'm really tired of that, man. I'm really, really, really tired of it. I not only want those funds to go where they're going, I want the people who've stolen it to go to jail for life. And when you start putting people in jail, you'll get less of this behavior. So, there you go. Yes, but we need to open mental institutions, and if they all look like Alligator Alcatraz, then that is a step up. Because I've seen some of these homeless encampments, and that's a special kind of hell. P.J. O'Rourke said that he did a number of Rolling Stone paid him to travel the world and do these reports. He did a couple books out of them, Holidays in Hell and things like that. And he said he's been to drug dens in Thailand, and he's been to just awful places in Liberia and so on. He said he's never ever been a place that was as scary or as awful as a housing project in New Jersey. Yeah. The ravine by Dodger Stadium is scary. There's another ravine up by Hanson Dam here in Los Angeles. There's just 200 people living down there in tents, and if they go out of their tent to the bathroom, which is behind a rock someplace, when they come back, they're as likely as not to have anything that they had in their tent or underneath their things gone, just stolen by other people, and friends of theirs. These people are in really bad shape, man, and yes, we've ignored it for 50 years, and every time we think it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and it has to be addressed. And I didn't think we'd ever see any of this stuff happen, but if it turns out that ICE is in Los Angeles and arresting people, then there's a chance that this could actually happen. So, there you go. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Constantine from Trigonometry did a video on why socialism is on the rise and pointed out that the current economy and society are not working for young people, specifically that young people are priced out of the housing market. Even if they save for a down payment, the prices increase faster than their savings. Here's the video. AI is poised to eliminate most entry-level technology positions, blocking the first rungs of any corporate ladder. Is it any wonder that young people are stuck in a perpetual adolescence? How would you convince them they'd be worse off under socialism when their own eyes showed that the deck is stacked against them? Yeah, they're right about that. I mean, in 250 cities in America, I saw just a couple days ago, the median price for a new house is more than $1 million. If Natasha and I were to buy out, we rent. We have a nice house, but we rent it, and that's not the same. It doesn't bother me so much, but it bothers her because it's not her house. And in order to buy a house where we live, we'd have to have probably $250,000 in cash for the down payment. You know, for the down payment. That's a big reach, man. And this is I mean, I love the house. I love the yard. I love the neighborhood. And in fact, tomorrow's the 4th of July as we record this. And we got a great neighborhood, and everybody, gets out there and they just kind of, march down the streets and all the rest of that stuff. It's just cool. But it's just, they're right. Young people are right. You used to be able to afford a house on a single income, and you could pay it off in 25, 30 years. And Swamp Rat says this is why tiny houses are becoming popular. I see these little modular houses, and some of these are really cool looking high-tech things. And I think if I wasn't married, I would live in one of these things. And up in Coeur d'Alene, I would just, I just think it'd be cool. I would just think it'd be really, really cool. They're right. The cost of housing, cost of buying a house, compared to the cost of the average income, is just split in the. I think it split right around the time that Nixon got us off the gold standard, and continues to grow. And the whole, housing crisis in 2008 with the collateralized debt obligations, that whole thing didn't help. Yeah, they're right, but socialism is not the answer to this. Really, the only response to people who are talking about socialism is just imagine that everything in your life was like the DMV, that going to 7-Eleven was like the DMV, and going to a restaurant was like going to the DMV, and everything that you do in the course of your day was like going to the dry cleaners was like going to the DMV. All you do is wait in line for limited resources that never grow because no one has any incentive to do anything new. The reason capitalism succeeds is because, look, I work 7 days a week, and I love it. I'm not flogging myself over it. I mean, technically I haven't been to work in 15 years, but there is no better system. Risha says, Bill, it's older than Nixon. The Federal Reserve robbed us of 95% of purchasing power or more since 1913. If you had 95 times your current funds, do you think you could pay your bills? I think so. Yes, I think so too. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka points out that women entering the workforce also greatly increased the supply of labor and therefore depressed wages, so no single breadwinner household became more and more difficult. All of this. But there's nothing about socialism that has an advantage on this. Yes, I did hear about the sniper attack, and I think it was northern Spokane. I don't think it was Coeur d'Alene. It was It's in the general neighborhood. Yes, some kid wanted to be a firefighter and they said no, and so he called some firefighters and started a fire and called some firefighters and he just shot him. Um, uh, uh, so I don't know what the solution to this is. Um, I suspect if I were to consult the crystal ball, I would suspect that the only thing that could save us from this would be cryptocurrencies. Uh, there seems to be a pretty compelling argument. And by the way, there's so much fraud in cryptocurrencies and all these, these new coins come out and, like the Hak Tui coin and all the rest of this stuff. But Bitcoin, for example, seems to be more or less keeping its value, and I think the thing about crypto is it's a real thing, it's a feasible thing. We know it works because people are using it, and crypto seems to be able to make an end run around around the Fed and around all of this. Matcha Harris says cash is anonymous, Bitcoin is not. That may or may not be true, but I'll tell you one thing: cash you can print, and Bitcoin you can't. It's cash is. I mean, we just fiat into existence another $1,000 billion worth of cash, and everybody's cash gets worth less until it's finally worthless. I don't know. I've never gotten deep into crypto, but I am aware of the principle behind it, and the principle behind it is basically what made the gold standard such a good idea. You can print money, but you can't print gold. And it doesn't have to be gold. It could be, could basically be anything. But I think if there's a solution to it, that's about it. That's the only thing I can think of, to be honest with you, capital G Geek. So it seems to me that that's, you could talk about a government program or whatever, but it's the Fed's ability to print money. And I was talking with Jeremy, and Jeremy bought a house, and basically he said that when he signed a mortgage, he wasn't borrowing cash from a bank and paying it back. That once he signed and he had to sign 42 times in 42 different places. But once he did that, the cost of the house basically magically fiated that money into existence, and then everything has to be, it's not an economy anymore in the way that we understand things. I just don't know. That's why I was disappointed with. I was so impressed with what Doge was doing when they were just, with their fiery sword, just going through these government institutions, just slashing this stuff. No, I don't have a rent to buy option for the house. Obviously, if I did, I would have taken it. And looked like a chance to really do it. And then if it turns out that you pass a bill that's just going to add more debt, it's like, well, really, what's the point? That's that. I got 3 more to go, so let's get these done here. Murshidar Tapi Kami Mendami. That's his new forever name, by the way. I'm torn on what to do about him. On the one hand, I stand behind the accelerationist notion that the beatings will continue until morale improves, and the idea that New Yorkers and socialists need to be made to stay and suffer the consequences of their actions until they learn. On the other hand, there's something to be said for not ceding ground to the enemy only to fight to take it back again with greater difficulty and cost. Some have suggested going the route of deporting him. On the one hand, that would solve the immediate problem of him specifically. On the other hand, it wouldn't kill the idea at the root, and we just count ourselves lucky he happened to be deportable, a tactic that wouldn't work for someone like AOC, for instance, who shares his beliefs while being a natural-born citizen. What do you think is the best course of action regarding Kami Mendami, both specifically him and those who think like him, short and long term? Many years ago, I don't remember who said it. Many years ago, I don't think it was a politician either, some wit, somebody lived in New York, said that New York was the perfect prison because the inmates think they're the guards, and there's a lot of truth to that. I'm 100% on the beatings will continue until morale improves boat. I wasn't kidding when I did the How LA Died video. There is no reason for cities anymore other than there's no economic reason for cities. We no longer need to be all in the same place at the same time. Large cities are a result of the Industrial Revolution. And we are out of that era now. If you're going to be a manufacturing society, you have to have all of your factories. You got your tire factory has to be close to your car factory and all the rest of it. But once you get into the information age and people can work from wherever they want to, there's no economic reason to have a city anymore. I'll take that in a second. Swamp. So all that cities have is city life, which appeals to a lot of people and appeals to me in limited doses. I love visiting New York. I used to anyway. Who was it? Sam Shepard. When he was a young man, he went to New York for the first time. He was a playwright, and he said he got off the bus in New York City and he'd just done some mescaline. He said he was walking down the streets of New York, and he said he looked down and he was wearing his cowboy boots. He said he could see sparks coming off of his heels. And I never forgot that, because at its best, New York gives you that sense. If it's a nice cool day, in fact, if it's a not a cold day, but for a summer guy, guy who grew up in the heat his whole life. I've been in New York, and sometimes in Chicago as well, where I felt like, really New York, where I felt like walking down the streets, I could feel like sparks coming off my heels. It's just electric. There's a real feeling there. So I get it. But if it turns out that you can't go to your restaurants because they're either smashed or you're going to get mugged or they're or whatever, and you can't go to the theaters because it's not safe to be on the streets, then there's no reason to be in that city. And I think that basically New Yorkers are voting for him, and New Yorkers need to feel the beatings will continue until morale improves. New Yorkers voted for him, and New York is the perfect example because they had a Republican running New York for quite a long time. And Rudy Giuliani turned that city around in no time because it got unbearable. It got so unbearable they actually voted for a Republican. And then New York became, Riverside. It became like Disneyland, like Main Street USA. I remember many times under Giuliani being in Times Square at 3 o'clock in the morning and not having the slightest problem at all. Natasha and I were in Times Square at 2 o'clock in the morning after watching Les Mis on Broadway. I'd met her 12 hours earlier, and we're on the streets of Manhattan at 2 o'clock in the morning, 100% safe. That was 2016, and that was 2 or 3 administrations ago. So if Curtis Sliwa wins, then New York will be saved. If not, then New York is going to have to continue to suffer, and eventually the city people will see. The problem is the city people, This is why liberalism is a mental illness. Liberals will vote for policies that make them leave the places they love and go live someplace they hate, and they will then take that same philosophy with them and screw up that place too. Um, and that's just the definition of insanity. Um, so, you know, um, so, we'll see. The best course of action is to fight to get Curtis Sliwa elected instead of Kami Mandani. Well, there's not much I can do about that, and there's not much I can do about the way New Yorkers think, and there's not much I can do about the way people in San Francisco think either. Uh, they deserve what's coming for them. It's like I mentioned earlier, this young liberal woman who's in Paris crying because she can't go out on the streets because of all the immigrants that are harassing her and sexually assaulting her and all the rest of it. And she's just wishing that this, why is this so bad, and won't somebody come and save us from this? This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for. And you're going to continue to get what you voted for until you change the way you vote. And there's no way around it. There's just no way around it. So, you want a communist and an Islamist? Get one. That's basically what happened to the United States. We were 4 years of it took 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to get us Trump 2.0. So, there you go. Now, Roxanne has a question. You live in LA. Do I deserve Karen Bass? Well, I live in LA, but I don't live in LA. Our little neighborhood is like small town America. If it wasn't, I'd be out of here. So we don't have a homeless problem. We don't have a garbage on the streets problem. We don't have a crime problem. We live in this it's not a gated community. It's just a nice little neighborhood. We go walking at 2 o'clock in the morning without a second thought. Everybody watches out for each other. We have a 4th of July parade tomorrow. The whole neighborhood turns out, and we wave flags and walk down the streets. And if I didn't live in America, in LA, I wouldn't. But do I deserve Karen Bass's or policies? Yes. I'm just not affected by them. So, it's a fair question. So anyway, no, if they elect him, then they get what they deserve. Dave Reels 51 says that if Mandami wins, they'll ask Albany, the rest of us in New York State, to pay for his ruin. Well, then don't. There you go. Busted Half Nickel Swamp says, I was born and raised in Pasadena, California, Los Angeles, California, voted for Larry Elder in 2022, so did I. But that whole thing, as I've said before, the problem with the recall election is that it was Gavin Newsom versus 16 different people, not against one person. And if it had been against one person, I think he might have lost. Just gonna do this real quick. Oh God, Bill Whittle for LA Mayor. Listen, man, you'd have a hard time talking me into being a state senator if they handed it to me. No. Just because I've heard this before. I just think it's funny. Your Busted Half Nickel Swamp says on YouTube, Bill, if you and I are in a NASCAR race and I'm in second place and you pass me, what place are you in? Well, if you're second place and I pass you, then I'm in second place. It's amazing how many people get that wrong. It's you know what, here's my favorite one. This is a great bar trick because it's just the way, it's got something to do with the way our language is structured. So you bet somebody on something, like you say, I don't know, go to an engineering convention or something, or space camp or something. You say, first man on the moon was Alan Shepard. I said, no, it wasn't. The first man was Neil Armstrong. I said, no, first man on the moon was Alan Shepard. It was Neil Armstrong. You want to bet? Yeah, I'll bet. You want to bet $100? Yeah, I'll bet $100. And then I say, So if I'm wrong, you'll give me $100. He goes, yes. I say, okay, I'm wrong. Isn't that funny how that works? If I'm wrong, you give me $100? Yeah, if you're wrong, I'll give you $100. I'm wrong. What I was supposed to be saying, what you heard me say was, if I'm right, will you give me $100? See how that works? I love that. That's one of my favorite little pieces of rhetorical prestidigitation, sleight of hand. It suckers so many people. If I'm wrong, will you pay me $100? Yep, well, I'm wrong. Amazing. It's amazing how many people fall for that. So there you go. Let's see, moving on here. Eric Blake tonight, the case of the Royal British Broadside. There's a bunch of stuff about Nigel Farage and so on. Okay. Now there's just one problem. The next scheduled parliamentary election is not till 2029. So they're cooked. How long? So the obvious questions are: how long can Britain sustain the growing crisis? How long can Farage and crew maintain this momentum? By my calculations, courtesy of our good friend Mr. Grok, the best possible circumstance to inform the Reform Party's dominance is the dissolving of Parliament this October or November with a special election in December. You ask, but what possible circumstances could lead to such a fortuitous event? Well, two things in tandem: the failure of the Labour Party's planned welfare reform bill and a no-confidence vote against PM Starmer. These two circumstances would make a December 2025 special election inevitable, and our friends across the pond can finally start turning things around for the better. I'm also wondering if Farage can potentially meet up with King Charles and or Prince William to ensure a parliamentary dissolve. Regardless, it required the Crown to step up and be more active than usual, but public support and all that. The populace is now increasingly on Nigel's side, so it might behoove the King to do so. What do you think? Well, I think that for the Crown to dissolve Parliament, that would have to be King William. I don't know enough about him. I everything I see of William, I like. I really like a lot. And Charles is a I feel sorry for Charles. Charles had a real real bad childhood. Whether William would have the well, here's the thing about the royal family. The one thing that the royal family is particularly good at and seems to be their overarching concern is the preservation of the royal family. William may have the street smarts and the strength of will to realize that that if they don't do something about this immigration issue, there is not going to be a royal family. There's not going to be a royal family to be royal over. We don't really understand in this country how the British royal family sort of functions the same way our Constitution does, and I don't mean in the legal or the governmental sense. Excuse me. The royal family is the it's the British identity. It's their identity. It's who they are. We all profess to love the Constitution. People on the left profess to love the Constitution, and I think most of them do. Thank you for all the kind blessings. But whatever the idea of what America is, the idea of what Britain is encapsulated into the royal family. I mean, the Air Force of the state of the United Kingdom is the Royal Air Force. It's the Royal Navy. It belongs to the king. The ships are His Majesty. This is His Majesty's ship. It's not England's ship. It's not Great Britain's ship. It's not United Kingdom ship. It's His Majesty's ship. They if you take and there's enormous pressure on, and has been for a long time, especially since World War II, enormous pressure from the left to just abolish the monarchy. I'm not pinning my hopes on Charles. I said very clearly that Charles is not going to be, is not nearly up for this. Charles is essentially a sort of a leftist kind of a global warming kind of guy, but William seems to be his own man. I don't see any chance of William persuading Charles to do it, but I don't think Charles is going to live to be, a whole lot longer. Exxon Petrola says 20% of Democrats are proud to be American, according to a Gallup poll. You know what's funny about that is in the depths of the Biden years, with all the transgender stuff and all of the BLM riots and all of the destruction of all of our institutions, and when things were going for as black as America could possibly be, as dark as it could be, I never, ever, ever would have said I'm not proud to be American, ever. I could say things like, I don't like the direction the country's going, and I don't like the changes, but you never, ever would have gotten me to say, no, I'm not proud to be American. 20% of Democrats are proud to be American? Well, that figures. That's why they have 20% support. And it's not going to get much lower than that. We won't see changes until King Edward gets of age. Who is King Edward? After Charles comes King William. So it doesn't work that way. The crown passes to the oldest, used to be the oldest male descendant of the ruling monarch, but now it could be, if it turned out that the oldest sibling was a female, then it would go, I suppose it would pass to the queen. Well, I'm not 100% sure of that, actually. I'm not 100% sure about that. William's son is George? Yeah. But William, I think William is going to be king for a long time. So we'll see. Anyway, who knows? It's all hypothetical at this point. They did change it, so yeah. So all right. So, this is the problem with the parliamentary system. No elections until 2029. Really? So we'll see. I do agree with Darth Chuck the Merciless saying that ending U.S. aid is the biggest impact Doge will have. Ending U.S. aid is a game changer. All of our opposition, we paid for all of the opposition to us, and we'll see. So it'll be So it's Charles III. It'll be William the IV, right? And if it turns out that it becomes it'd be George the, let me just mention it, George the VIII. George the VIII, was there a George? I guess there was. Dave Big Booty says 90% of U.S. aid never left the Washington area. William V? William I was William the Conqueror. William II was his son, I think. And I think William III was the Glorious Revolution, right? He was a Dutch, William and Mary, William, when Dutch monarchy came over and took over. Strange time in British history. George VI, that's right. So anyway, we'll see. And then finally, Mickey McGeeth with the first time question that at least I recognize. A big new bill this time. It's different? Question mark. We talked about this before, I think. It is William the Fourth. Yeah, I thought so. William the Fourth was a son of dear old George the Third. I don't know, man. Is that right? No, doesn't matter. I used to know the kings of England. William the Fourth was before Victoria, so he would be William the Fifth. Got a good name. William is an awesome name. It means the indomitable helmet of conquest. Don't you forget it. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm concerned that they're irretrievably gone. I didn't see Paris fight the Nazis for. I didn't see the French fight the Nazis for their country in World War II, and I don't see any hope for France. I really just I just don't see it. So we'll see. Anyway, so Mickey, I think we talked about the big new bill as much as I know about it. I have real mixed feelings about it. I think the tax cuts, most important thing is the tax cuts needed to be extended, so there's that. And I don't really know if there's just much to add to it. I wanted a flaming sword taken to the government. And it sure looked like it during the first couple months of Doge. But it seems like that so much of that really aggressive, revolutionary, we're going to hack this government down to size, seems to be fading away, which is really kind of disappointing. But as was just pointed out, getting rid of USAID alone is a gigantic deal. So, there's that. I am concerned that we're just going to have. I don't know. Look, I would give the Donald Trump so far. I'd give him a B plus, and I'd give him an A if it hadn't been for this feud with Elon, which is just on both of their parts. I'm not blaming Trump or Elon for this. Well, I'm actually blaming both of them. It's an own goal kind of thing. I mean, it's just fumble. It's just a bad fumble. It's just dumb, and it's hard to watch, man. It really is. It's just really, really hard to watch. And this is the billionaire ego. You don't, when you're a billionaire, nobody tells you no. So we'll see. Anyway, we'll see. I think that'll probably do it for tonight here. What do we got? 2:30? That's not too often. We'll see. Things are getting better anyway, so the trajectory has changed, so we'll see. I heard Trump, I saw Trump's Truth Social that his statement about Iran was pretty, pretty clear, I think. Okay, well, anyway, I think that'll do it. everybody have a great 4th of July out there, and and I will be in here working. I hopefully have some general rendering stuff just to show on Monday night, just for some more eye candy. But until then, happy 4th of July to everybody, and thanks for all the support. Hopefully by Monday, I might have a working website, and we'll, get this thing on the road. I'll be looking forward to a lot of feedback, and maybe I can get some of you to sort of, for those of you who are watching and not members and thinking about becoming members, maybe you can beta test this thing out and give membership a try for a while. Unlike many of these other sites, we have a cancel membership thing right there. You don't have to go digging for it or try to find it. It's like, if you don't think you're getting money's worth, then you can just check out at any time. So we certainly do need to get the membership numbers up and way up, and we're just going to keep pushing harder. And the more resources we have, the more we can do. So I really feel like I've got something to sell with this Story Mechanics AI thing. Young people are out there are turning much more conservative. Nobody's talking to them, and these tools allow us to go get them. So we'll see. Okay, so thanks for everything. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you Monday night for the Stratosphere Studio. Take care.